Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, and in particular to the Season 5 finale of the Rossifari podcast. Y'all, as of Wednesday this previous week, this podcast has officially existed in the public for 5 years. And so today's episode is going to be a mixture of talking a little bit about that and a little bit about season 6 and then actual zoo news stuff. It's going to be kind of a combination episode. So yeah, the season 5 finale. Finally. Get it? That kind of almost sounds like. Anyway, yeah, I am beyond thrilled and honored and cannot believe that we've been putting out 2 episodes or more a week for 5 straight years now. And y'all listen. Not only do y'all listen, but every year more of y'all listen, which is cuckoo banana pants to me because, y'all, it's just me talking. Okay, I know that's not why you're here. You're here for the animals and the cool zoos and all that stuff. But I will say that it has been the most incredible ride of my entire life to do this podcast and to make it work for 5 years. I've probably told this story on the podcast before, but I can't remember. So one of my very, very dear friends was talking to his therapist about his band, which includes me on the drums. And he was just like talking about who we all are as people. And he told the therapist that, you know, I'm a professional drummer, but that's not really my passion. My passion is animal conservation, and I do this podcast and all these things. And the guy stopped him and was like, wait. You're saying that this dude's day job is professional drummer just so he can do animal things? And that might be the best description of it that I've ever heard. It's true. And when I think of all the places this little tiny 6-week COVID project have taken me, it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. So obviously season 6 will be dropping starting on Tuesday, and things will not be changing because, well, frankly, why would they? Why mess with what works, right? I've asked people lots of times what y'all want to see change, and y'all are either too dang nice for your own good or you really like what we're doing here, so I'm going to just keep on keeping on. But I will tell you, the very first episode is going to be a reverse interview where I will be the guest, and I get interviewed by someone or maybe someones that y'all love very much. And so, yeah, I thought that would be a good thing because there are so many people who have come to the podcast late, and I've been on other podcasts and shared those episodes back in the day and stuff. But, it's been a minute since I've really taken the time to introduce myself to my audience. And y'all hear about my day-to-day a lot on Zoo News and stuff. But I thought it was time to get reacquainted. And for those of you who have been here for a long time, I promise you will not be bored because A, you love the questioner in question, and B, I think you'll enjoy the going back with me and thinking through and talking through all of this and what it's been. I do have some fun stats to share with y'all. So in 5 years, we have gotten over 1,040,000 downloads. The Rossifari podcast has been listened to in 138 countries. There are currently 550 episodes of the podcast, although that is skewed a little bit because there are patron exclusive episodes that show up in that list as well. And look, while I love y'all dearly, I'm not going through to try to pick all of those out for a couple numbers. But yeah, so I think that is all very cool. And I also thought this was very interesting. In the history of the podcast, if you have listened, you have heard from people from 85 accredited zoos, 15 accredited aquariums, which means 100 accredited facilities have appeared on the Rossifari podcast. But then on top of that, you've also heard from 23 different conservation organizations, 19 people who I put in the research, rescue, and training category, and then an additional 29 guests that have come from just other things that make sense in this world, whether it was talking to Jungle Jordan or Gunjan Menon, the conservation filmmaker, or some of my episodes like the AZA conference recap or AAZV conference recap and stuff like that. The SSA group, Species 360. So yeah, 29 episodes that fall into that category. So pretty expansive breadth of information. Oh, and we can't forget 2 holiday specials so far. We all know you want your holiday special this year. Don't worry. But, numbers don't really tell a lot of the story. And the truth is, and you'll hear more about this in the interview on Tuesday, but the truth is, one of the most interesting things about this podcast is that so many of my favorite stories I actually can't share with you. It's those little moments of connection, of bringing people or facilities together, of hearing stories or details that aren't necessarily public knowledge all the time, and recognizing trends and connecting people with each other and helping people and animals and all of these things that happen behind the scenes. And it's like, it's not something that I can just throw on the pod, but holy cow, I cannot believe that it's a part of my world, and I love stuff like that so much. I can tell you this one. It's funny because as I'm recording this earlier today, I took Miles to visit Aquarium of Niagara with me. And it was really cool for 2 different reasons, other than because it's a great aquarium and I like being there. But first of all, not only was everyone excited to see Miles and say hi to Miles and share spotted turtles or fun facts or whatever with Miles, but also, the Kristen, the kind of person who first got me to volunteer at the aquarium, let Miles help with some enrichment and with feeding the seals and sea lions at the facility. And the fact that this little project that I started with no clue what I was doing just led to my son getting to hang out with seals and sea lions and stuff. That alone makes it all worthwhile, right? That's so cool. And then before that happened, this guy came up to me, and he was vaguely familiar looking. And I hope it's okay to share this. I assume it is, but I'll keep it vague. But this guy comes up to me, and he was like, "John," and I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey, we met at a conference last year." And I was like, "Oh, right." And instantly, all of the memories came back. And I was like, "Hey, how are you? Good to see you." And so we were catching up a little bit. And he was like, "Do you remember putting me in touch with and connecting me to this person at this conference?" Again, trying to be vague. And I was like, yeah. Did that work out? Did anything? Oh, he's like, "Oh my gosh, yes, no, it's amazing. We are buds now, and I'm able to text if I ever have questions. And I go there a couple times a month, and I am learning from this person, and it is like helping my career." And that's so cool. And I often tell keepers and other people on the podcast, like, hey, you never know who you're impacting, because, the people who inspired me to start this podcast don't know it. I don't know who it was. I can't tell you. But here it is. And every good thing that has come from this has come from them taking the time to talk to me before this existed. And I'm fortunate enough that in a kind of public facing way, I occasionally get to hear those stories, but I also know that there have to be other ones that aren't told to me, and that's cool too. And That is the niftiest part of doing Rossifari. And the thing about it is, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, although that does remind me that my senior year band director in high school always used the phrase, toot your own horn, because if you don't, someone else will use it as a spittoon, which is gross, but also probably accurate, especially in this age of digital trolling and stuff. But I digress. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if this is literally your first episode, or if you've been with me for every episode, or if you are the insane person who is now on their second full listen through the entire podcast, you are the reason that all of these amazing things have happened, that all of these stories get told. I would not have kept going if nobody listened. And I would not have gotten so many of the cool facilities that I've had on if I didn't have an audience to point to numbers and say, hey, there are lots of people listening. Can I, take 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 of your employees away from their work for an hour and a half, maybe go play with some animals and do these experiences that cost hundreds or thousands of dollars. And can I just do them because I have a microphone? All of these things, all of the good stuff that has come from Rossifari in my life, in my family's lives, and in the lives of anyone who's been touched by this podcast, all of the conservation organizations that we've raised awareness for or donated money to, all of the zoos and aquariums that we've helped in various ways, none of that would have happened if not for all of y'all. So thank you so much for helping me create this incredible community. I'm almost speechless, says the guy who's been talking for 12 minutes straight about this. Okay, so enough waxing poetic about my podcast and this incredible community. This is Rossifari Zoo News. It is a crowdsourced zoo news program. It's going to be a little short this week just because I was spending a lot of time on that stuff, and Miles is here and all the things, but I rambled for a lot at the beginning, so maybe it won't actually be that short. But as always, if you sent me things and they didn't make it in this week, don't worry, they're still a candidate for future episodes. And I do always start off with a couple of things going on in my life. And I did want to share just a couple of cool things. First of all, our run of $1 Million Quartet ended at Gretna on Saturday, and it was a wildly successful run. Not just in the fact that people loved it and we sold lots of tickets, but in that my single favorite moment ever on stage happened. The lovely woman who played Diane in the show, knew that, I told the whole cast that Miles and my parents were there. And during the last song, she ran down to him. She got my permission first and handed him the tambourine. And he was so into it that she actually brought him back up on stage. Now, none of this was discussed with anybody. And had it been, probably it wouldn't have happened because that's not really how things go in these shows. But it was so perfect. It was so spontaneous. It was so beautiful. Everyone at the theater loved it. Our stage manager was super cool with it. The artistic director of the theater was there and was cool with it. And I got to tell you, rocking out with my son in front of a couple hundred people was pretty cool. And he was up there and making fun stank face and doing all the things. He even knew how to end the song properly with the milk and cookies ending, that ba-da-ba-ba-da-da-da-bum type thing. So yeah, it's hard to express how incredible that was. But in all of my years on stage, that was number one by a lot. And I will actually be returning to Gretna the weekend after this comes out to play Hadestown Teen Edition. It's a Broadway musical that is running now, and the rights are only available for teens to do it. And so they're going to make me look really young. No, I'm kidding. I'm in the pit, obviously, and it's a really fun, really different orchestration. Some really cool music. So again, if you are in the central Pennsylvania area, come and check it out. And then last but not least, very quick, I'll talk about this more down the road. But tickets have officially been purchased, and I'm heading back to San Diego, y'all. So I haven't talked to them. I need to reach out tomorrow to see if we can do some more episodes. I've got some ideas. But regardless, we're going to have some fun pics and videos and cool stuff coming to you from the San Diego Zoo and the San Diego Safari Park. Okay, and with all of that said, let's get to it. All right, so obviously the headline story this week was that Rossifari just had its 5th birthday. And so moving on from that, we'll get to our births for the week. And it is still Red Panda Cub announcement season. And this week does not disappoint. The Idaho Falls Zoo has announced the birth of a Red Panda Cub. The exhibit is currently closed to give mom and baby the most stress-free start to their combined lives, but things are going well overall. And that's not all. Zoo Lodz has announced the birth of a red panda cub to mom Ophelia and dad Othello. Also, the cub in this situation is doing well. I said that terribly, but hey, whatever. It's only been 5 years. I'm still learning. But so only two red panda births this week, but very exciting stuff. And actually, speaking of exciting stuff, I genuinely cannot remember if they announced this before now or not, but I'm not going to take the risk. Cleveland Metroparks Zoo has had a baby tree kangaroo, and it is now visible and doing the getting out of the pouch thing. So the baby was born way back in September, but being a marsupial, it just quickly crawled into mom's pouch where it continued to develop. If you're listening, y'all know how tree kangaroos work and have seen a couple of joeys. And I genuinely can't remember if this has been on the podcast or not because I've known about it for ages, but they weren't announcing because, again, there is such a long amount of time between when the true birth happens and when the joey even starts to poke its head out of the pouch that I've been keeping this one secret for dang near 2/3 of a year at this point. So yeah, I did actually see that they put it in a members newsletter recently that was sent to me, and I legit can't remember if this is the first mention of it or not, but I was not going to miss out on the chance to remind y'all or tell y'all for the first time that there is a tree kangaroo joey at Cleveland Metroparks Zoo. Smithsonian's National Zoo has welcomed 4 new foals to the family. A Przewalski's horse foal, a Hartman's mountain zebra foal, and 2 Persian onager colts have all been born, all at the off-site Front Royal campus. So that is the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. That's the Conservation Biology Institute part. And obviously, these are all very important animals for conservation. All are doing very well. And, you know, it's funny. When I was at the Front Royal campus recently, I was looking at a Przewalski's horse, and I don't know. I'm curious to hear if any of y'all feel this way, but we have species that have been extinct and then we've reintroduced into the wild, right? I'm not talking colossal quote de-extinction, but I'm talking about, species that we had in human care that were no longer in the wild. And then we put them back into the wild, right? And so there's the California condor and many other examples. But for whatever reason, whenever I see a Przewalski's horse, it hits me. It hits me so hard. The impact is so overwhelming every single time. And I can't quite say what it is about them that makes me in love with seeing one and feeling that conservation, hey, we did the thing and that's the thing, so much more than condors or anything else. But it does, and I love it so much. So knowing that one of these is a Przewalski's horselet is pretty fantastic and makes me really happy. The Kansas City Zoo has announced the birth of 2 male fennec foxes. They can currently be seen in the new African Kopje section of the zoo, which was still being built when I was there. And the little ones are just, little tiny versions of what is already a little tiny fox. So very adorable and very worth checking out. The Bronx Zoo has welcomed 2 new squirrel monkeys to the troupe, both born on holidays, one on Father's Day and one on Independence Day. They are on exhibit and stay very close to their mothers, who are doing a great job with the little ones. Interestingly, the other females in the troupe are also quite in love with them, and they all take turns carrying the babies around, which I find extra adorable. And then finally, a new okapi calf has been created at the Chester Zoo. Word on the street is that this little one has the latest operating system, better battery life, and an extra set of USB-C port. No, wait. I keep forgetting. They are real. I've met them. No, but seriously, the new calf, Miloli, is doing well and having a great time bonding with mom, Ada. And then on the other side of the whole life thing, we have our deaths for the week. If you follow along on social media, you know that I have to start this section by saying goodbye to Della, the 35-year-old gray seal that called Aquarium of Niagara home. Della was recently diagnosed with a painful shoulder condition, and despite medical intervention, Della's health continued to decline. Pathologists are still working on diagnosing the exact cause of death, but Della was an absolute gentle giant. She was completely blind due to cataracts, but did a great job navigating her home at Rescue Harbor using her vibrissae. And of course, she did a great job with training, although it always had to be verbal cues. She was an absolute rock star when it came to encounters, and over her decade at the aquarium, she introduced so many people to just how amazing seals really are. During my time with the marine mammal and bird team at the aquarium, I found myself constantly amazed by how special it was to be so close to such an immense, couple 100-pound, beautiful but silly animal. She loved her ice enrichment so much, and she was just such a glorious, glorious seal. So many of my favorite memories at the aquarium include Della, right up to the end. I even got to do some little treatment-y type things with her, and man, they were really special. The entire team misses her so dang much, and honestly, I do too. And then the North Carolina Zoo has said goodbye to Leia, a female giraffe who lived at the zoo. She had a hoof injury and unfortunately aspirated after the medical procedure that was done to cure it. This is a complication that can come because of anesthesia and is considered the most common complication of giraffe surgical procedures. Leia was 15 years old at the time of her passing and was known for being the first to test out new puzzle feeders or other enrichment items. While she didn't get along with everyone super easily, the relationship she built with her favorite trainers were incredibly deep, and she would often show trust to other people or animals when her favorite keepers were around, which I just think is a beautiful thing. So obviously when a relationship like that ends, especially in an unexpected way, there's a lot of pain and suffering. So just sending all the love to the team at the North Carolina Zoo. And that brings us to the rest of our Zoo News section for the week. Just a couple stories this week. The SeaWorld Foundation has announced plans to create a new marine hospital on the Gold Coast of Australia. The SeaWorld Foundation Wildlife Hospital will be equipped to rescue and treat dolphins, sharks, seals, and whales. This will be the first hospital like it in the Southern Hemisphere, with rescue vehicles right there at the hospital working together to deploy and rescue animals, then return them to the hospital for the medical care they need. And best of all, well, no. That's best of all. But also very cool is that the hospital is going to be open to the public, so you can actually go and see the work that they do, which I just find fascinating. The Smithsonian Institution has teamed up with the Fort Belknap Indian community, wanted to make sure I said that right, to restore the swift fox to tribal lands in northern Montana. 139 animals have been released so far, with most staying near the area they are released in. And that's a hugely important part of reintroductions that can't really be controlled, so it is a big deal. And because of these reintroductions and other incredible reintroductions done by organizations including the Smithsonian, this is now one of the few areas of the country where bison, black-footed ferrets, and swift foxes can be found coexisting. That's really incredible. Or just sad that they weren't all there for a long time. But no, it's incredible. The work that is being done is incredible. The ZAA has announced the hiring of a new director. Dr. Kelly George is the official executive director of the ZAA. Dr. George has a ton of experience in conservation work, business, management, and education. Her passion is the human-animal relationship with a focus on one welfare. I'm really excited to see what she brings to the organization. I feel like the ZAA is going to be taken off even more. There's been a lot of cool stuff, and especially after hanging out at Tanganyika and stuff, hearing about the research that they're doing and everything through the ZAA, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch this organization over the next couple of years. And then last but not least, our friends at the Oklahoma Aquarium have officially been named a TripAdvisor Traveler's Circle Award winner, meaning they are ranked in the top 10% of attractions worldwide. This is quite the achievement for a facility that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and I feel like it's been way too long since I've been out there. But yeah, now they're top 10% in the entire world. So congrats to the incredible, incredible team there, especially Anne and Lolly, who are doing just such amazing work all the time. And that brings us to Stereotypical Animal Podcast Theme Song. Here to bring you to conservation news. All right, so we're just doing 2 stories this week because, again, doing this section a little bit shorter this week. But this is one of my favorite stories of the entire week anywhere. So in southern Florida, there's a huge problem with invasive pythons, which is something we've discussed at length on here before. Now, scientists have released a new weapon in the battle against the pythons: robo-bunnies. Tiny robotic bunnies have been created with fur and tiny heaters inside them that heat them to the temperature of living rabbits. And the robotics inside actually mimic the motion of the actual rabbits in such a way that the pythons there actually believe these are prey items. Then, when they swallow the bunny whole, tracking devices alert conservationists to where the pythons are, and they are able to go and get them and euthanize them. And yeah, I admit, invasive species. I was literally teaching Miles about this today at Aquarium of Niagara when I was looking at the lionfish. But man, the idea of killing animals to save species is still so stinking weird to me. But like, hey, it works. It's important. I understand it logically. But yeah, it's a crazy thought. But I love that there are robo-bunnies. Robo-bunny. Sounds like a really cheesy movie. Or maybe the highlight of the next holiday special? No, don't worry. It's not that. I'll forget by then. Don't worry. And then those are not the only new methods being used to help with conservation, actually. A surge of poaching in Africa, Asia, and Europe has led conservationists to team up with police to use methods that are usually reserved for homicides, sexual assaults, and other high crimes. Things like DNA sequencing, fingerprint analysis, infrared imaging to detect blood, ballistics tests, and additional high-tech methods have been added to the anti-poaching playbook with great results all over the world, from places as different as Zimbabwe to Scotland. And this is so cool because we talk about how conservation can benefit from technology in so many ways. But oftentimes the laws or the agencies that are protecting animals or protecting conservation, endangered species, all that stuff, aren't the best. They're great, and they're doing amazing work with what they've got, but they're not as well funded, or they're just not as well staffed. When I say they're not the best, trust me, the people are the best. But, you know, if you've got a homicide department and a wildlife enforcement department, you can guess where the budget's going. And you know, I understand why to a point, but yeah. So the fact that these more high tech, more expensive detection, strategies are being used for conservation is really exciting to me. And I hope they continue to work out well. Because yeah, until that industry becomes way less successful and way less lucrative, it's not going to slow down. But that brings us to in other news. Our friends at Peppermint Narwhal have released their 2025 holiday ornament list. This year, you can order things like muskox, hippo, tamandua, gray wolf, capybara with reindeer antlers, narwhal, chinchilla, and more, all with adorable holiday adornments. And this is not a paid advertisement, but I really love Peppermint Narwhal, and I love that so many of y'all got, you know, pins and calendars and stickers when we partnered with them for the holidays last year. And so I really hope that you are able to hop on board and get yourself a holiday ornament. Or if holidays aren't your thing, get yourself, you know, a cute, dangly winter muskox. Yeah, doesn't need to be an ornament. Cute, dangly muskox. And then last but not least this week, remember when I said that the whole Florida robo-bunny thing was one of my favorite stories this week? There's a reason it wasn't just my favorite story this week, and that's because of this story. See, scientists have always assumed that sloths don't fart. They actually assumed that the methane created by their slow-moving digestive system just got absorbed into their bloodstreams and breathed out through their mouths. Well, we now know that is not the case, as a video shows that sloths do fart. There is a video that shows a Hoffman's two-toed sloth farting in a bucket of water. And so you can see the bubbles and all the things right from the butt. And that does prove that these animals do pass gas, which I find absolutely incredible. I also love that the way that you test whether sloths fart is by having one dangle from your hands into a bucket of water and then seeing if there are butt bubbles. So yes, sloth farts and butt bubbles. This is a good episode, y'all. There is, at this time, no word yet on whether sloths have evolved their own sayings, like whoever smelt it, dealt it.
Animal, animal, animal holidays. Animal, animal, animal holidays.
All right, so this episode is wrapping up July, and July is Plastic Free July, National Bison Month, Parks and Recreation Month, and Wild About Wildlife Month. And then for your individual days, we've just got a couple this week. The 26th is International Mangrove Conservation Day. The 29th is International Tiger Day. And the 31st is World Ranger Day and National Mutt Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, there you have it, folks. Not just another episode of Rossifari Zoo News, but 5 full years of the Rossifari podcast. I am so excited to have hit that milestone and to share this with y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here, every single one of you, especially my patrons, and especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, and Kevin Williams. I would also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed to stories this week, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Anna McEachran, Elizabeth Charles, yes, Maddie Pats, Daniel Cohen, Jacob Zinn, Marianne Rossi, Ken Tryon, Dr. Laura Schenk, Melissa Reed, Matt Fouts, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky,
The Malenskys.
Dr. Natalie Taco, Amanda Berg, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Jay Meredith, Sarah Henry, Ann Yoshioka, Barbara Bennett, Strix, John Lewis, and Justin Fairchild. Thank you all so much for contributing to this week's episode. We'll be back here on Tuesday with a brand new episode featuring me. And until then, friends, don't forget, the words Newsy credits backwards are Stider Kiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.